Welcome back to basics. So, this episode we're going to be going to Jool, and we're actually going to try and set up a communication system because there's a lot there, and well, if we're going to do anything there, we actually need to be able to communicate, I think. So, we're not going to send one or two; we're going to send a lot. Right, so you find me in the VAB, just putting some craft together. So I was trying to basically come up with some sort of nice, simple communication system. So I was designing two. I knew I needed something that was long range. So that was going to use one of the bigger dishes to communicate back to Kerbin. And then I wanted some smaller ones that would actually be able to communicate around the Jool system, possibly further, because if we're going to send any craft there, any more probes, any landers, anything like that, there's a lot of planetary bodies there that block signals. So we need a decent communication system. So you see here, I'm messing around. I've got this little sort of probe core system sort of built with reaction wheels and whatnot. Stick a big relay on the top of it. It's very nice, wonderful. Some of this I have kept, some of it you will see I have changed. So the original plan in my head was, you know what, I'll send a big one and some small ones. I might send a couple of those and we'll put them in a few different places and that's it. And there we go. I was thinking, okay, I can get a big one and 4 little ones, and yeah, that's really wonderful. My plans changed quite significantly when I started to think about just how much communication I wanted and what my future plans were. So this is our first launch. You're going to see what I came up with as we come up. So it is a big launcher. It is similar to basically the craft I've now started using the last couple of episodes and the ones coming up. It's basically a big, I think it's the size 4 super mega wide Saturn wannabe, launch stage with a few of those sort of F1 equivalent type engines on the bottom, and I've put a few extra bits of fuel tank on just to make it look nice. They can pretty much loft most of our creations into a good orbit or near a good orbit, and we're going to unveil any second. There we go. So here you can see we've got our transfer stage, which is a block of nuclear engines and some fuel, and we've got 3 big satellite dishes and some big relay dishes and some little relay dishes on the side. So this is, I think, is it 4 or 5 nuclear engines? Because I'm done with going slowly to places. I've done a lot of missions that take a long time to get anywhere, and I know that nuclear engines are slow, but you know what? I just want to get places. So here we are. This is our little craft. 3 long-range communication satellites, and the aim for these will be they're going to go around Jool. But we're not just going to send just them. We're going to send another set of craft as well. And this one took a little bit more to get off the pad, shall we say. This is the more is better approach, I think. Now, I'm not going to send another 3 big ones because, you know what, I technically only need 1 of those, don't I? So this one is all about always being able to contact every single space in Jool. And for that one, I think I may have gone a little bit over the top. You can tell me if I have or not, I don't know. So if I was setting up a GPS system or a communication system on Earth, in the olden days you look at, orbits of 5, 6, 7, things like that. Starlink is going to be, thousands potentially. We're going to send, we're sending 16 satellites in one go to Jool. Yeah, 16. Yeah. 4 sets of 4. Yeah. So you can see it's got that same, once we actually finish this stage burning, we've got that same nuclear stage there that we have on the other one with 5 nuclear engines. Then above that, we've got another set of 4 nuclear engines. Each of those is a separate craft. And on the top of that is 4 independent little relay satellites. You can see them there. So if you actually look at them head on, that's quite scary actually. That's an awful lot of satellites. So we're gonna send them to Jool and we're going to arrange them. And you know what, when we get there, I'll show you what we're going to do. And I'm going to try and show you how you can use one craft to do multiple things around Jool. Now, in reality, I could do the same thing with that craft as, oh, I could treat that craft as a science craft. If I'd stuck some science equipment on it, we could actually get a lot of science from what I'm going to do with it. Jool is a wonderful, and I'm just doing my transfer to Jool now. I'm just, I'm burning outwards. You've seen my recent trip to Elu, so it's the same. We're burning outwards. Well, not burning outwards. We're burning sort of prograde. We're trying to get away from the sun. We're putting a lot of energy into our orbit. We're trying to get as much speed from where we are as possible, and that sends us out of the sort of the orbit of Kerbin, past Duna, past Dres, and all those, and we're going to go out to Jool. And Jool's now nice and big. You get anywhere near Jool, you're gonna capture. Now, you can see that the actual the rendezvous point with Jool, or the interaction point, is actually polar. I don't want that, so I'm gonna actually do a plane change. So I am aware of the fact that I need to do a plane change, and I've also got two of these craft going at the same time. So we're going to send the other craft as well. Now, in the past I've done split screen, but you know what, I'm not going to do that this time. We're going to just do speedy. I'd like to know what people thought. I can't remember which mission it was. I think it was the Eve mission and the Dres mission, where we sent multiple craft and we did split screen. If you prefer that, please tell me. So yeah, we burn out, and both of these are pretty easy. Now, this one I wanted to get there as quick as possible, so I've actually I've sent it a slightly quicker route. Even though it was the second one to depart, I have set it with a bit more delta V, and I'm being a bit more risque with it. The main reason being, I want it there so that I actually have the communications for the arrival of the second craft. So you can see here, second craft setting up its maneuver node for its plane change. The first, the big craft with the 3 transmitters, that I actually got a bit of a plane change as it was leaving Kerbin, and you can do that. You can play with the normal and anti-normal in Kerbin. You can change your position around Kerbin a little bit, and you can try and get some of that angle, that plane change completed. You will still not be perfect unless you're at an ascending or descending node when you actually do the ejection burn. But you can have a little bit of an effect on it. So we're just doing our plane change now, and you can see we're coming in at a really high angle, and what we're trying to do is we want to come in equatorially, because my comms system is going to be equatorial. I also realized that at this point I'm going to go into a retrograde orbit. Yeah, not good. So we actually remap some nodes, and I actually figure out, if you see there, I actually figured out how much delta V it was going to take to actually change that. So our big craft has arrived at Jool. I've cut a whole section out with the traveling through space. So arrives at Jool, and we're just going to do our retrograde burn. Okay, you didn't need to see all of the Jool transfers and stuff. And this one's really simple. I'm basically going to put it around Jool, inside the orbit of Lathe, and we're going to space them out. So I've figured out my final orbital height that I want. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can do the maths, which is sort of what I did. I calculated out, right, what is the orbital height I want, what is that orbital period going to be, and then I basically go, I've got 3 of them, so I want to add on a certain percentage to that time, sit one of my periaps at where I want, and then I bring the other one down until I've got that orbital period, and then I can release my satellites every time round and circularize. Okay, that's one way of doing it. The other way is actually put your craft into the correct orbit, and then raise your apoaps until the period of your orbit is actually at such that when you release a satellite each time, you're actually going to get a nice spread of the satellites. Okay, you can do a little bit of maths. It's easy, or you can just put them roughly and hope. That's the other way of doing it. Jool is a big planet. If you put them on the outside of the Jool system, you'd probably be alright actually. You could put them wherever. I'm putting them quite close in because I don't want them interacting with anything else, and because I'm bringing some more communication systems in, they're going to act as a hub there, and I just need one of them to be able to see Kerbin, and the others can triangulate around the planet and get me signal to absolutely everywhere. Yeah, these burns take a while. We've got little ant engines on the back of these things. The burn's a few hundred delta V just to circularize this, to bring down that apoapse. So you can see now I'm just getting the correct height, and I think it worked out at, I can't remember what the period was. It wasn't too bad though. Was it 2 hours, 2 days? I can't remember what the period was. 2 days I think it was. And they all ended up, and we just released them. There's some trouble getting out of the. Obviously, I'm swinging it backwards and forwards. There was some trouble getting them out of the the material that was holding them, the fairing base type material. I don't know if that was me or what. I mean, I did pack them quite cheekily in there. I should have actually stuck them on sideways, and I should have been a bit sort of clever about the way I'd arranged them. But a bit of force doesn't hurt anybody, does it? As long as you don't have the solar panels out when you do it. And then we basically rinse and repeat this every single time we come around for orbit from our main craft. We're going to release one of these, and they're going to circularize. They're going to drop that apoapse down. And it's basically a rinse and repeat. And what we should end up with is the 3 craft evenly spaced around Jool, forming a little triangle. At any time, one of them can communicate back to Kerbin, and the other 2 can communicate within the Jool system. Now, in my head, and I don't know that the actual workings of this on the game, I'm assuming that just having one relay dish is fine. It can do anything. I put the other little ones on just because I like the idea that actually they could be relaying to multiple things at once. Particularly communicating with Kerbin. So we've got the Kerbin dish, and then we've got the local dishes, and I quite like that. And then always remember to rename your craft, because if you go back into the tracking station and you're trying to find them, and they're all called Jool Relay 1, Jool Relay 1, it becomes really quite annoying. So again, it is just a case of rinse and repeat, and This is 4 times normal speed. I think it's 9 times actual speed. So you're looking at 36 times the actual speed that it took. You can see the time spinning past there. It is just one of those things. This is the sort of task I consider to be the same as like using ion thrusters. And you can see that nice little triangle. I'm just checking what's going on. You can see it connecting to actually some of the craft. This was partly done because of the ELU mission as well, because I was aware of the ELU mission and the need for communication to it. So this will now give us communication quite far out. Now, obviously, if ELU and Jool are on the other side to each other of Kerbol, we're not going to be able to communicate through Jool. But at the moment, the 2 of them are quite near each other. It's quite common they're near each other, and it also means we've got that extra sort of communication from outside. The dishes are big enough with a long enough range that it gives us potentially some hoppability to other planets when Kerbin's being sort of blocked. And here comes the big set of craft. See, I think this just looks so stupid. I really should have actually thought of a different way of doing it, but it's just like a block of satellites. I should have stacked them, or I should have made them smaller, but again, the solar panels are the minimum that they need. If we were closer to the center of Kerbol, we would not be so worried about these solar panels. But we're quite far out. I think I got access to RTGs just after launching this mission, and now you can see where I'm getting a bit clever. So I'm attempting to try and get an intercept with a couple of different places. I'm getting one with Tylo already. I want to put some of these probes on Tylo, Val, and Lathe. So I'm looking for interactions. I can see now that I'm getting Tylo, and I'm going to come straight through. So I'm going to drop one of the craft off at Tylo, but I really want to drop 2 off. So I can see there I'm getting an interaction with Val. So in this, if I do this burn, I know this whole craft is going to end up at Val, which means I can drop off 2 of these, keep symmetry, and I'm going to do this in a second, I think. I can drop off 2 of these top craft after this burn. They're going to continue on. One will go to Val, one will go to Tylo, and that then leaves me with the other 2 craft, which are going to go to Lathe. Now, you may be wondering, why is he sending 2 to Lathe? He's got other moons out there. He's got Paul and he's got Bop. Well, Paul is on the outskirts and is tiny, and I'm not too worried about it. Bop is on an inclined orbit, and if I go to Bop, I'm going to go to Paul. And it's likely that the 2 of those would be manned missions, just because they're pretty easy to land on. Also, the delta V requirement there is just very low. The others, I'm putting these around bodies that are actually going to be an effort to land on, and if I lose signal, it's going to be annoying. So there you see, I'm going to release 2 of these probes, or 2 of these carriers, and you see they're going to float away. Now, again, I put myself into the normal, And then I check where they're going. So this one, by kicking it like I did there, is now not going to interact with Val. So it becomes the Tylo one. This one I know hasn't had enough of a kick, so it's going to go to Val. So that's those two done. Now, this I think about calling lathe, but I always think I'm going to actually, I'm creating a situation there where I'm going to, So I then target lathe with this one, and I can see that with a tiny little burn, and it's like 2 meters per second, I can now put this one onto a lathe intercept. So with basically almost no burning at all, there we go. We've now got 3 sets of satellites that are going, and you see that lovely close approach to lathe. It is, I think, is that the correct? Yeah, it's a normal orbit. It's not a retrograde orbit. So we should be okay there. I want to put them into standard orbits. I'm trying to avoid retrograde. However, if, it's a set of communication satellites, it's not vital. They're not going to land. Orbit being retrograde or normal, it doesn't really matter for communication satellites as long as they're all going in the same direction. You don't want them firing into each other. So then it's just a case of us waiting for all these craft to go out there and do their stuff. So first one that we're going to come across is coming into the sphere of influence of Tylo. Tylo is the big heavy moon. It's the desolate one. Tylo, if you ever want to land on Tylo, has gravity sort of comparable to Kerbin. It's definitely not the Mun. It doesn't have an atmosphere, so you can't really use that for slowing down. So it's actually one of the harder places to get to in the Kerbol system. We will potentially land there in the future, or if not, we're at least going to be able to send signals to it and see if anybody's there. I would love to send Kerbals to Tylo, but I don't know if this series is going to go for that. Yeah, it might. Maybe if we have a third series, I don't know. We are coming fast towards the end of this series. So yeah, nice little capture burn there. It uses a little bit of fuel, but we've got loads in this nuclear stage. It's really nice. Again, we do our little calculations, and I'm thinking, right, okay, how do I want this? So we're going to use, I think it's this one. I used my periaps of arrival to become my apoaps for my actual burns. And then I think I got a little bit confused, and I think I had to redo the maths halfway through this. So there might be a pause at one point where I'm sort of get the paper out and I'm like, hold on, have I got three satellites or 4 as to how I want them arranged? And so we've done our burn. We're now captured. Now, once you're captured, you can actually leave the craft. You could just leave this craft and come back to it whenever you want. Kerbal Alarm Clock is really vital for this sort of mission because you can spend days putting these into the correct orbits. Having Kerbal Alarm Clock there gives you that security, so you don't need to worry about it. So even if you don't end up jumping between the different tasks you're doing, the fact that you've got that peace of mind, please download Kerbal. If you've got no mods at all, get Kerbal Alarm Clock if you're going to do a mission where you've got multiple landings and things like that, because you know what, it just helps you. And instead of keeping your eye on the mission timer and having to remember if you've put something on or jumping back, it keeps it cleaner for you. So we do basically what we did with Jool. We jump backwards and forwards. We every time we go around our orbit, you'll see that we go to our periaps, we circularize, and we position our probes nicely all the way around. It's actually just a really nice little mission, this. And we now will have, I'm going to keep doing this, jumping backwards and forwards. It is sped up 900%, so with the time up, we're looking at 27 times how it looks. And it's just a case of this burn. It is not the same sort of burns that you're having to put up with around Jool and places like that. It's a lot quicker, it's nicer. It takes no time at all. And then we've got our final craft. We're going to do that, and it gets a bit easy now at this point. So what we can do is we put this one, get this one out of the way because we don't want to run into it. One thing I did notice this, I actually started, I think the previous burn, I almost got hit by the actual carrier rocket because we were actually slowing down. So be aware of that. You can, destroy yourself. And then, you know what, just because I can, I'm just going to set the engine off and we're just going to deorbit it. So I know now it's actually coming down. And yeah, we can follow it in if you like. In fact, you know what? This rocket's done a lot for us. So we can actually, I tried to speed it up there. Just make sure it blows up. We don't want anything left. If there's anybody on Tylo, yeah, problems. So we come back to the craft that's going to hit the lathe, which is our next one on our alarm clock. So this comes in, and you can see we've got 2 sets of craft there. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do with those, and I'm not going to touch them in this episode. They're actually going to stay there because this episode's already getting quite long, and I am debating what to do with the 8 of them. I could put them in 2 separate planes. I could have them going in opposite directions. I could put polar and equatorial. I could do some sort of, star and braid formations and things like that. I haven't decided. We may wish to colonize Lathe, in which case a good communication system will be vital for that. And I may just want to actually be able to land. One thing I did notice with the atmospheres mod that I have installed, Lathe, and particularly Eve, is going to get very difficult to land on because you can't see anything underneath. Lathe's not too bad, but yeah, Eve's going to be a problem. So this is our final one, and I'm not going to go into this one in too much detail, but this is going to be Val. Now, I've put all the others in normal orbits. This one, however, is going to go in a retrograde orbit because when I started to figure out how much energy it was going to take to change it, it was a little too much for me to be willing to spend. We're talking about, I think, 500 meters per second of delta V to change the direction of the orbit. If it was a lander, I'd start to debate it. If it was, if it was a lander and a return craft, yeah, I'd definitely debate it. But for this, you know what? I thought about it, and then I thought, no, we won't. And it took a couple of times just to see how much it was going to cost me. So I can actually pretty much get into orbit for almost the same as it is to actually change the direction of the orbit. So we just went for that. This one's going to be a little different. We're going to come in quite high, I think, around for what we're going to do. We're going to actually have a low periaps, and we're going to end up circularizing at our apoaps. So this is the opposite way to the craft. So you come in, you circulate, you capture, you put your apoaps where you want your final orbit to be, and then you undercut it. Now, if you've got a big orbit round outside the sort of planet or the moon, that's often sometimes a good way to do that because it means you can actually do some of your modification burns low down. It saves you a little bit of delta V. If you've got a small planet, you want to be close to it, you're better off having further out orbits just because, you know what, sometimes the planet gets in the way for communication. So yeah, so we come in and we're just setting ourselves up, and this is going to be the same as all the others. So I'm not gonna hold you to it. I'm not going to make you watch. You can see we come in. Val, I think, is a wonderful little sort of moon to look at, and it's definitely somewhere. I've never sent a Kerbal to it. I've only ever seen it from distance. I think it's just a really cool colour. I think it's what Minmus could have been, but Minmus is sort of the learner's moon. So yeah, we're going to detach one of our satellites. We're going to do this. I'm going to finish this off camera, and whilst I do this, have a good one, and I will see you in the next episode.